Shemesacha. So the third statement, yeah, that's right. We finished the bit before. The third statement of Shmuel. Shmuel says three things about Shutfin. We're at the bottom of Mem Gimel Amud Aleph. Shmuel says three things about Shutfin. People who are partners jointly own something. So lots of halachic ramifications. Three things that Shmuel says is, number one is they can form a chazaka one against the other. That's Shmuel's first statement, which we dealt with. The second one is mi'idin zelzeh. They can testify one against the other. And that was the whole discussion we had last time. That was the whole sugya. How can they be made? Surely they are noger be'edus. Surely they have a vested interest. And that's what we dealt with, why they don't have a vested interest. They don't have a vested interest, right? We created a scenario where there's no vested interest. And there's no financial gain, etc., etc. But the third statement was, V'nasim shomer socha zelozeh. Now, V'nasim shomer socha zelozeh, Rashbam explained, on the Gemora, that the scenario is that if you have something that is stolen from, that is jointly owned, and it's stolen from one of their houses, the halacha is they're chayav to pay, right, as per the halachas of a shemesacha. We know the difference between one of the key differences between a shemechinam and a shemesacha. A shemechinam is an unpaid guardian, a shemesacha is a paid guardian. If you are paid, you have a greater level of responsibility. If you're an unpaid guardian, a shemechinam, you're a potter, or geneva va'aveda, right? If it's stolen or lost, you're potter. Why are you potter? Because you're only unpaid, doing him a favor. So therefore, the logic is, and the Torah says, it's learned from the Psukim in the Torah, Parshas Mishpatim, you're potter because you have a lower level of responsibility. But once you're paid, you have a higher level of responsibility. And one of those things that includes is, or involves, is having to pay for it being stolen while it's under your thing. So the interesting chiddush of Shmuel is that they are automatically, if I jointly own someone with something with someone else, I'm automatically considered to be a shomer socha on that item. The question is why? What makes me a paid guardian? What way am I paid? And the answer is, the payment is that the other guy, is going to look after it the same amount of time that I'm looking after it for. That's my payment. If I look after it now, you'll look after it later today or tomorrow. And therefore I'm being paid to look after it. I'm being paid. You understand? I'm being paid. How am I being paid? The payment is going to come in the form of you also looking after it, this joint thing that we own. Right? That's what Rashbam said. And I was going to spell this out. Top of the next Omid. Amai. Why? Shmira b'vailim. Shmira b'vailim. Now there's a din. They're going to ask the following question: that if you are looking after something together with the owner of the item, then the halacha is your potter. The halacha is your potter from liability if he's also there as well. There's a whole discussion exactly in Bov Metzia what that means. But basically, the Rashbam tells that. Look at the first Rashbam. Each one guards a part of the jointly owned item in their house, or the items, obviously. There's something that we jointly own, and I've got a bit in my house, you've got a bit in your house. That's what we're assuming at the moment. The Chaim of Bov Metzia b'Ashel, we hold in Bov Metzia and Ashel, Perak Ashel, Shmir b'Bailim Potter. If you look after something whilst there is so the owner is actually present, you're exempt. You're potter. Torah actually says, this potter, this patur is actually spelled out in the Torah in the context of a shayl. It says in bal of imoy, in bal of einimoy, something like that. If the owner's not there, that's when you have to pay. It says it about a borrower, not a shomer. Okay, but nevertheless, Yolef shomer socha asum. The Gemora there learns shomer socha from the case of a shayl. Medichsev from the positive of chi yishal, and if he borrows, vov mosef alin rishon, the yilmod elyon mitachton, the vov of the chi yishal, which is the parsha which talks about a shayl, the borrower, is adding on to the parsha beforehand, and you can learn the parsha beforehand from the parsha below. If you remember your parshas Mishpatim, you have three parshas, I think, one after the other, right? They talk about different scenarios of responsibility for items in your possession that someone else has given you. The first one is a shemechinam, the unpaid guardian. The second one is shemesacha, you're paid, and the third one is a shayl, borrower. The borrower has the highest level of responsibility, because if I borrow something from you, I get all the benefit and you get nothing. You understand? I'm not looking after it for you. I borrowed it. So I get the full benefit. Because I get the full benefit, I get maximum responsibility, which means that I'm chayav even for onsim. That means even if an accident happens. Yeah, you know what I mean? These are the key distinctions between these three. Hashem Echinom, everyone's chayav for pshia. You're negligent, obviously you're chayav, right? You have to pay, right? But Hashem Echinom is potter if it's stolen or lost. Hashem Esacha has a high level of responsibility for pshia. Correct. Hashem Esacha is chayav for geneva va'aveda. I mean, this is the headline. There's all sorts of details and what's called close to pshia and close to owners. You know, just the headlines, right? Hashem Echinom is potter from everything except for if he's negligent. Hashem Esacha, right, has more liabilities. He's chayav even if it's stolen or lost, right? But he's potter if it's an onus. If it was something I couldn't be blamed for, complete accident, I'm potter. A shoyl is chayav even for onsim, because
it's as if it's yours. Yeah, you've got to return.
You've got your full responsibility. You borrowed it, look after it properly. Even if an accident happens, there are cases even a shoyl is potter. Something completely crazy thing that happened that was completely beyond the realms of any whatever. Yeah, something that crazy happens, whatever. The Gemora talks about cases, even a shoyl. But anyway, that's the headline. Now, there is a din, however, that it says with a shoyl in ball of ein imoy. You only have to pay if the owner's not there. If the owner is present, then you're exempt. That's what the Toras says. Okay, and the Gemora learns a Hashem Esacha from a shoyl. The same din applies to Hashem Esacha, right? But Hashem Esacha is also potter from his own liability, which is like Geneva and Aveda, right? If he's potter, if the owner is present, okay? So the Gemara's question is, look at the fourth line in the Rashbam. Since Reuven is guarding Shimon, part of Shimon's the property, exactly, at the time when is stolen or lost part of his portion in the house of Shimon. Shimon is exempt from his responsibility of Reuven's part of the jointly owned thing. Because Reuven is with him, he's present in the malacha at the same time. So even though you're in your house and I'm in my house, right? But because there's this jointly owned thing, and we're assuming now that I'm looking after part of it and you've got part of it with you. So essentially, because I am protecting at the moment the part that's in my house, right, which you own, and you are looking after the part that I own in your house, because remember, it's all jointly owned. The whole every atom is all, it hasn't been divided up. Every atom is jointly owned. Do you know what I mean? It's all joint, right? So I'm looking after your part, and you're looking after my part, and that means essentially, at the time when it's stolen or lost, and Shimon's house, he should be potter, because Reuven is imay. He's imay b'malachto. He's looking after it. He's working with him at the same time. Is this at the same time, right? So the reason why it adds in malachto is because the Rashbam seems to understand that he needs to be with him, present at the time when he is working on the item or looking after the item or whatever it is. I think that's what it means. This is all discussed in Hashoel. I mean the
working with the item.
No, I don't know. Well, no, it means he's while he's it means he's working. Yeah, he's working with him at the side. I think. Well, I think he's working with the item. He's working with him at the time when he's looking after it. When he's working. See, Tosfos, if you look at Tosfos, he explains differently. Look at Tosfos Pirush, yeah? If they both began, Lishmor Yachad, you see Tosfos, yeah? To protect together, each one at the time when he is guarding the other guy's part, the other one is also guarding him, looking after his portion. But even though he's not with him at the time of during his work, when the accident happens, the Gemara Bava says, as long as he's been there at the time when the guarding begins, right? The owner is present at the time when the guarding begins, that is enough reason to exempt me. And he says, because the Brisa says in Bava Metzia, if he's working with him at the time of borrowing, he doesn't need to be with him at the time when it's broken or dies or whatever. If he's with him when the accident happens, it's broken or it dies, he still needs to be with him at the time when it's borrowed. Even though they didn't both begin to guard together, the latter one is exempt. Because the first one was with him, it's called Imoy b'melacha when he began to guard it, right? So again, it's not that the Rashbam necessarily disagrees with this Tosfos, right? It's just that Tosfos emphasizes that the critical time when this din applies is if the owner is present at the time when the Shmira begins. You understand? That is the din. That is the din. You learn it out from a posuk, right? You learn it out from a posuk. You learn it out from a posuk if the owner. There's no problem here. I remember. Yeah. If you learn it out from a posuk at the time, if you learn it out from a posuk that says that if the owner is there at the time when the guarding, what? Thank you very much. Yeah, but that's no. But the point is, 1 second. Study Hayam. Yeah. No, but that's what you're talking about, Aveda.
Yeah.
It's a Mishnah at the beginning of Perek HaShoyel in Bava Metzia, and the Gemora learns out from Psukim that in a situation where the owner, the person you borrowed it from, or the person who owns it and asked you to protect it, because you learned Shem Esachel from a Shoel, if he was there, he was present at the time of the beginning of the period of Shmira or She'ela or borrowing, you're exempt from subsequent issues that arise whilst the item is in your control. You learn it from a Pasuk. Where's the Pasuk? Second. Here, someone borrows something from his friend, and it breaks, or mace, or it dies. If the owner's not there, then you have to pay. Why? Maybe because the owner's there. I don't know why. I'm sure there's discussed in the Mefarshim. Why should it be? There's a logic. If the owner's there, maybe he's taking responsibility. You know, he's present at the beginning of the period, even if he's not there subsequently, but he was there at the beginning and he was there. So therefore, maybe he takes responsibility rather than you. Whatever. The fact is, the Gezer Sakosav. That's what the Torah says. The Torah says if the owner is present, you are not liable. Right?
What should matter whether or not you?
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. You have to look up at the Pasuk and understand why it is.
Or a cut from someone.
Yeah, but this is the din. This is din of Baal of Imai. It's a din in a thing. So the Gemara is asking here, Amai, Shmira b'Bailabi. Why is it that I should be responsible, yes, for accidents like a Shema Socho, not accidents, even, sorry, like it's stolen or whatever, whilst, it's in my possession. By definition, this whole act of guarding, right, is the Bailim are present. The owners are present because Reuven's looking after Shimmer's part, Shimmer's looking after Reuven's part, and therefore they're present. They're present looking after they're both there. They're both looking after the same item at the same time. They're because they're partners. You with me? Okay. So this din should apply. Omar Papa says, the scenario is, he says to him, Shmali Hayom, a very simple solution where they do days. I'm going to guard for you today, right? You guard for me today and I'll guard for you tomorrow. Now there's no Bailim present because today it's entirely my responsibility, everything, and tomorrow is entirely your responsibility. Yeah, look at the Rashbam. Amar Papa could go in second Rashbam shehisnu beinei. They made a condition between them. Kach as follows: Shmoli hayom, protect for me today. Kol hasoda, the whole field, chelki v'chelkecha, my portion and your portion, ve'eshma l'chol hamocha, and I will guard for you the same thing. The kirvan d'lo shomer b'yachad klal, since they didn't guard together at all, ela b'zeh chazeh, only one after the other, leika shmira b'bailim. There is no protection, there is no guarding with the owner. The owner's not there, right? They didn't guard together. They did it one after the other. Therefore, nasu shomrei sochar zelozeh. Therefore, they become shomrei sochar zelozeh, paid guardians one for another. Is chayiv ba'onsim, to be chayiv for onsim. That happens, accidents that happens. This is a difficult word because a shomrei sochar is not chayiv for onsim, and not chayiv for accidents. Is chayiv for also for geneva and aveda, if it's stolen or lost. I don't know what exactly the pshat is. It could be that it means an onus, which is what we call korov lipshia, close to being negligent. Like in other words, a geneva or whatever. It could be. It doesn't mean a full-blown onus, right? Full accident, right? I've got written here, I'm Pnei Shlom. I don't have access to that now. So either way, this is what it is. V'lashminon also comes to tell us the hainu shmiro bischar. The key chiddush of Shmuel is that this is called guarding for payment. When he guards the whole field, and he also guards the other guy's part. So the other guy will also guard the same way the next day. The Sagal might think the Shemechinam who he's an unpaid guardian. I'm not really being paid because I have to look after my part anyway. I can't split them in half. It's a jointly owned thing, right? I might think it's just one guarding altogether. So I'm not really being paid for looking after your parts, right? I might think, therefore, that he's not a Shemasacha at all. You could understand, but I'm not really a Shemasacha because there's no extra work in looking after your part. I've got to look after my part anyway. I own it. I'm looking after it, right? Happens to be that it's joint with yours. Therefore, I'm also looking after the whole thing. So I'm not really being paid to do that. That's, you could understand it. The Chiddush is, Komash Malon, comes and says, no, you're considered to be a paid guardian on the other guy's part. And what is the payment you receive? Yeah, tomorrow you're going to look after my part. That's a perfectly reasonable payment.
And they own the same parcel of land.
Yeah, it could be land. It could be Davdavka lands. From the way the Gemora has been discussing about me having it one day and you having it another day, it could be it's not land. I mean, it could be it's metalton. It could be movable items. It doesn't matter. It's something that's jointly owned. Beforehand, we were talking about things that are split, and it's half in my house and half in your house. But this could be like anything, right? Right? It could be just it could be a set of cutlery or something, it's half in my house, half in your house, wherever it is, we are looking after it. Yeah. And therefore that's the third din of Shmuel, right? That's the third din of Shmuel, paid guardians. There's a very interesting note here, which seems to be whether it's in addition to the Rashbam or not. It's not really clear. Zeh shaykh la'el. Do you see the brackets? He says this is relevant to elsewhere. Quotes are very interesting to Tosefta. This is very useful for Gaboim. But Tosefta b'hagozel. In the Tosefta and Hagozel it says follows: Ha'omer tnu monel dinar, tnu meo dinar leknesses. He says, give 100 dinar to the Knesset. Tnu sefer Torah leknesses. He means the basic Knesses. Or a person says, you're going to give 100 person makes a pledge. He's going to give 100 dinar to a basic Knesses. Or he says, tnu sefer Torah leknesses. He says, give a sefer Torah to a basic Knesses. So how do you work out which one he means? This is one of those. He's got the Hendon affliction. He davens here, there, and there, and there. He's got 15 different shuls, one for every tefillah. And that's those who consider themselves mokum kavua. 15 shuls. And those who don't have mokum kavua, it's like 50 shuls. Anyway, I'm joking. Anyway, right? Yeah. But basically, he's got the Hendon thing, and therefore, how do you know what shul is his main shul? Shabbos morning is here, Friday night is there, Monday morning is here, Tuesday morning is here. How do you know, right? So the answer is you're not saying the Knesset Horogil Bo. Doesn't help so much, but I suppose you could work out how to define that. You give it to the shul, he's familiar in. By the way, you could argue the other way that you see it in the time of the Tosefta. This was also a problem. It's not a new phenomenon. Yeah, it's not you said it well. It was going on then as well. Nothing new under the sun, yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah. Although you see, there's a rogil bar. You've got to make a mokum that's your mokum. It could be other times. Occasionally, you go somewhere else. You should have a place that's your mokum. By the way, seriously speaking, I did see a tshuva of Shlomo Zalman think it's a Tshuva Rosh Hashanah, I didn't see it in sites sort of quoted. I think it's Rosh Hashanah, who talks about the concept of Mokum Kavua is fulfilled if a person is always in the same tefillah in the same place, which is quite interesting. Meaning.
Sure.
Do you understand? No. Seriously speaking, like obviously, ideally, one should be in the same shul. Well, obviously, that I'm biased, yeah. But I'm saying no. But it does make a thing. Yeah. They're always in the same place for that tefillah. Also has a concept of kvias. Kovua is very important din in halacha. Mokum kovua. Do you understand? Like you're supposed to have mokum kovua, not in the shul. That's the substitute. That's the secondary bit, right? The main thing is having mokum kovua, a basic kovua. So he talks about this idea because obviously it's a mitzvah, it's a fact. People sometimes done different tefillah different places. A person should try at least and keep the same tefillah in the same place. What isn't good, you with me? Especially is like the same tefillah. 1 week I'll be there, 1 week I'll be there. Let's say Friday night, I'll be Friday night once there. You know, wherever you're going to go, it's a good idea to keep it as clear as possible. It should be here, but I understand. What?
You didn't need to say anything.
Why? It's obvious.
You should be here. That's it.
No, I'm trying to be,
enlightened.
Yeah, diplomatic, magnanimous. No, but it's true. It's interesting, you know, that at least that. What was that? I can say there isn't a mokum kavua, but the primary din of mokum kavua is kovea mokum l'tfiloso. You fix a place that's your shul, right?
Yeah.
Now, how are you going to do it with the you know, there are people for whatever reason who can't always daven in the same location. They have their own reasons or whatever it is. So at least they should be the same tefillah. That makes sense in that, you know, not hopping around from place to place. That's the point. Okay. Now, what is the din? You give it a knesses harogel bo. You go to the shul that he's familiar in, frequents in. I mean, frequents, right? Let's say he's frequents 2 shuls. Yitnu l'shneim. So he has to give it to both. You have to split it between the 2. Sefer Torah would have to be half with one, half with the other. Interesting, no? But Omer, it's not so negative really to Gaboy Avram, no, because normally people make it in the dove in the shul, the Shabbat's going to the shul, right? You're not. That's the whole point. It says you say that in the Nusach, I think, right? It goes to the basic Knesset.
Doesn't Shabbos trump the regularity?
What does that mean? Like that becomes your Mokum Kavua?
Yeah, you're more frequent somewhere else, but on Shabbos you
No, you can ask the interesting question. Does Shabbos have a greater weight in terms of establishing the person's like their shul? Yeah. Nowadays there would be quite a strong argument for that because I haven't seen it anywhere. You could argue that simply because that's how people, again, this is all about Badas B'nai Odom, and generally speaking, you probably would say that for most people, that is their, or they consider to be their shul, is the place that they daven, probably on Shabbos morning, I think. Does that make sense? No, that's the norm, I would say. I don't know if that's the same all over the world, by the way. I think in England that's the case. Well, in South Africa, for example, there's a lot of Friday night is a big thing there. Well, it just is, always has been. No, I mean people go to shul Shabbos morning as well, but they're sure there are more people come Friday night than Shabbos morning. If they're not so committed, if that makes sense, they get greater numbers on Friday. Do they? If he says give to the poor people, he should give it to the poor. We should give it to the poor people of that city, right? That's how it is because that's his city. Rabbi Acha says la'aniye kol Yisrael, la'aniye kol Yisrael. You give it to the paupers, all of Yisrael, right? That's what you do. Ben ha'oichel mishal oviv, ve'eved ha'oichel mishal rabbi. A son who eats from his father's table or a servant who eats from his master's table. It's a separate din. He's allowed to take off a piece of bread and give it to poor people or to the son of his friend. He doesn't have to worry about theft. It's a really fascinating piece because the Bali Batim, that's the custom, that's the minhag. They assume that people, you understand, you might think, how can a son who's really, his father's funding him, he's giving him the food, so how can he take away a bit of that food and give it to someone who comes to the door and asks for a piece of bread? And the answer is because it's the minhag, it's the normal thing to do. It's a normal practice. And as a result, it is allowed. So it's not entirely clear why this is here. Just 1 second, there's something here about this. Where is it? I'm giving on the base. Yeah. Rav Arne Steinman asks that it's difficult to understand Rabbi Acha's opinion. Why does Rabbi Acha say you give it la'aniyeh kol Yisrael, give it to poor people of all of Yisrael, right? If he just says tnu la'aniyim, give it to poor people. There's a din in halacha, that the people you'll sit here first. You understand? So why does Rabbi Acha say it should go to all aniyim? If a person says tnu la'aniyim, give it to poor people, surely we should follow the order of priority, which is aniyeh ercha. So this is a question. It doesn't answer. It just leaves it as that. Okay, good. All right. Any questions? No. So the Gemora carries on. Tana Abana Brisa says as follows. This is a continuation of this idea about whether you can, whether a person is negea ba'edus, when you can give testimony, when you can't. Are you have a conflicted interest? Mochalu bias, mochalu soda. A person sells someone else a field, or sells them a house, or sells a field. Ein meid lo aleha. You're not allowed to testify for him. That means to say, Reuven sells a house to Shimon, and Levi comes along and starts making representations that really this house is his, and Reuven had no right to sell it. Yeah, and well, in based in, or he starts making noises. He stands outside the house and shouts, whatever it is. Right? He's not allowed. So, and he says that this is really the halacha is Reuven, who sold the house to Shimon, is not allowed to be one of the two Eidim to testify that it belongs to the person he sold it to. Shimon. Reuven sold to Shimon. Levi comes along and claims it's his. Reuven is not allowed to stand up in court together with another aide and say, "Are we testify?" What? Right. Oh, exactly. So we're going to come to. Yeah. The Gemora spells out. It's obvious. Why can't he do it? Yeah, because he stands to gain. Obviously, he can't testify because he's not independent. He's not an independent witness. If Levi takes the house or takes the field, then Shimon's going to come straight back to Reuven and say, "Excuse me, can I have my money back?" Okay. But what's get this even more surprising is the next line, because mochalo pora, mochalo talis, if he sells him a cow or he sells him a garment, meid lo oleh, he is allowed to testify, because then he has no recourse to go back and claim from Reuven. That means to say, Reuven sells Shimon a cow. Levi says that cow is mine. Reuven is allowed to testify for Shimon that this is not Levi's cow. By the way, how is he going to testify? He might bring proof that Levi's documents are forged, for example, or whatever it is. You know, understand? He's going to do something to testify, to disprove Levi's claim, right? So the Gemara, you understand, right? So he's allowed to. It doesn't now because he can't come back. Came back. Maishna Reisha, Maishna Sefer. Well, ask the obvious question: what is the difference between the first half and the second half? There is no reason to make a distinction between the two cases. That means as follows: it doesn't make a difference whether it's land or it's a movable item. It could be a cow, it can be a book, it can be a house, it can be a field. The principle is the same. If the person you sold it to is going to be able to come back knocking on your door asking for his money back, then obviously you are conflicted to stand up in court and testify that the third person who is trying to claim ownership is false. Because of course you want him to be false and be a liar. Because if he's not a liar, you've got a problem. Okay? And it makes no difference whether it's houses or whether it's a house or a cow or a thing or whatever. You know, you understand? That's the problem the Gemara asks. Clear?
I thought you could only claim against, there's a debt, for example, against land.
We're not talking about claiming against land here. No, there's a difference. There's a difference. There's a question about if we say, sometimes we say that in a case where you sell something with achrayas, which means you give a guarantee, so the you claim from land. The assumption is that the shibud is on land, right? Not movable items, right? In other words, that's where you get to claim from land that I own. It's like a charge on the land.
Yeah, so that's
it's like a charge on the land. Correct. No, it's no different to a mortgage, right?
Yeah.
Lahavdil, not really. It's quite similar, right? The bank is not going to come and try and take your cow.
No, exactly.
The bank is going to take the land. That's what the bank has got its charge on. So the same idea, right? You understand? That's the right, that you owe a debt to the bank, and the bank, if chas v'sholem you don't pay back, the bank will come along and can take away the house, right? Same idea. But this is not that, because we're giving a reason And the reason is because he's given a guarantee. But that can exist anyway. That can exist with a house and it can exist with a cow. Makes no difference. You with me? Yeah? All right. So that's what the Gemara's problem is. And the Gemara is going to resolve it by saying that, in fact, we're talking about a totally different set of circumstances, a different scenario. But let's first see the Rashbam. 4 lines where it's wider, not very wide. A person sells a house to his friend. The seller cannot testify for the buyer to establish in his hand. That means to station if he comes to join together with someone else, and to testify that it belongs to the person he sold it to. He's conflicted. He's nogea ba'edus. You know the word nogea? Negia means to touch. He touches the edus. You've got to be separate from edus. You can't have stand to gain, otherwise you can't testify. Because the guarantee of the house falls on the seller. That means if they take the house away from the buyer, he will go back to the seller to get his money back. Therefore, the seller wants it to stay in the buyer's hand, so he doesn't have to pay him back. That's how we understand it now. In this case, we're going to change it. But it's going to explain later on what the case of the cow is, selling the cow. Because he has no recourse to go back and claim from the seller if they take it from him, because the seller who stole it. And this is what the Gemora therefore asks: what is the difference between the first case and the second case? What is the difference between movable items like a cow, right, or a garment, where he doesn't have a guarantee, he's not able to come back to claim, from land? If these 2 sales were with a guarantee, then they're both. He has a guarantee. He has to pay back. He has to cover it. The guarantee is on him. And if they're without a guarantee, neither of them have a guarantee. There's no difference. In other words, if we're saying the case is right, well, he's got a guarantee. He's given a guarantee. That case can exist in any scenario. It can exist with land. It can exist with a hound, with a cow. It makes no difference, right? That's the most question. You with me? Okay.
What's the difference between him testifying on behalf of the buyer and the person coming along and claiming it? The person coming along and claiming it has a complete vested interest as well.
No, but that's true. But you're allowed to mount any claim you want. You might be telling rubbish, and you might, but obviously Levi, who comes along and says, hey, that cow, that's really mine. Obviously, Levi doesn't make a fool of himself. So assuming he's got some proof, right? He must have some proof. Maybe he's got some witnesses, or maybe he's got something, I don't know what. He's got some document that it purports to show he used to own the cow. Okay. You're allowed to make a claim you want. If you're what we call in halacha the turn, you're the claimant. You can launch any claim you like, right? Yeah, exactly. That's a very important point, Jeremy, you're making, because the difference is if you're a turn, you can make any claim you want. I can disprove your claim if I bring witnesses. So the seller is going to disprove it as an aid, as a witness. He can't do that alone. He needs someone else. But so he's going to pair up with someone else, another guy, a 4th guy, Yehud or whatever. He's going to come together, and they're going to come along and they're going to stand up in court and say, "I'll prove to you that Levi could not be the owner." You know why? Because we will demonstrate how that's a forged document. We will demonstrate with the aid of invisible ink or something that this was a forged document. It's a different date, and he took it from someone else. Or whatever it's going to, I'm going to do something to disprove Levi. By the way, it's a problem for a Beis Din, spurious claims. You understand? Because anyone can launch a claim. Open a file in Beis Din, or take someone to Beis Din. Tell them, I'm going to take the Beis Din, din Torah. How do you avoid that? It's really simple. How do you avoid spurious claims? So I said to Jeremy, anyone can make a claim. So why can't I take you, Paul? Why can't I take you to court and say, no, not necessarily. No, not necessarily. No, I can make a claim. I can launch. I can open a court. I can open a file.
Sure.
No. Well, similar. I suppose I don't know. There are different bodies in probably different things. For example, the London Beis Din, there's a minimum. There's a threshold, like for each party, I think, has to pay £1,000, like for the din Torah. It costs money. That's an easy way to prevent people launching spurious claims. Because if you want to open a case in Beis Din, I think it might be 1,000. Maybe it says, I can't remember what the rate is. You know, you're going to have to pay. Why? Because it's assumed it's like a day of 3 Dayanim's time. Do you understand? So there's a rate for the din Torah. It pays for the staff and the administration and the Dayanim themselves. It's a completely reasonable thing to do. You want to open a claim, you have there's a certain maximum. Clearly, you're not going to do that unless it's enough money that's worth you opening. It's both sides will have to pay if they, you know, I think what?
Then like a daily rate for this case.
Could well be. I don't know. I'm not sure how it works. I really don't know the breakdown. And maybe I pull the thing. I'm not sure if it is really £1,000, but it's a significant enough amount of money that you're going to take up a lot of Beis Din's time. So therefore, it's clearly got to be a case that's worthwhile. So then you'll tell me, okay, but what do we do if we have a really small claim? Let's say you want to get £100 back from someone. Yeah, no, it's true. So the Federation, for example, just operate a different system. There's no problem. They have a small claims court. It's seen by one Dayan. I think there's only one Dayan, right? What is it? What's the minimum amount? Maybe any amount. No. It's probably about £500 or something. Could be, yeah. So I've got a small claims court. That's fine. So London Basin don't do that. Federation do. That's fine. You know, they do a small claims court. You want to take someone. It's a small system. It's probably a couple of hours or something like that. You sit in front of one Dayan, and it's probably a relatively quick decision. Whereas the Dinei Torah that come in front of the London Basin, by the Federation also do the big ones, right? But the Dinei Torah that come in front of the London Basin are only going to be significant enough, by definition, that you're talking probably tens of thousands at least, because they're going to be something that makes you know, it's worth that time.
I'm not sure if any point out to his father-in-law that small cases often are the harder cases and the big cases are often the easy ones. But it's not a matter of.
Well, that's maybe true. That may be true. But on the other hand, of course, by definition, if it's a bigger case, more is at stake. You know, so.
The US also do it on the basis of your member or non-member.
Don't think so. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. By the time to Dinei Torah,
Depends where they go.
Stick out in Torah, and then do it. Pay non-membership fees.
oh, you mean it's a different rate for a member?
Yes.
That's not unreasonable. Because the whole US is propping up the whole. It's propping up the whole system. I mean, it's propping up the Beis Din. The Beis Din is fundamentally being held up by the United Synagogues. That doesn't sound unreasonable to me. I wasn't aware of that. I'm not really involved in that side of things, but it makes sense. Jeremy, you sound like experience. What?
No, I found out one. Say membership fee for the US.
All right.
Then it's cheaper than the non-membership fee combined.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's no different to other areas of life. You pay a membership, you get a favorable rate. Anyway, all right.
You can even choose your own line.
No, there is a concept of choosing a dime. You can't do that. You can't do that if you go to a base. That's called Zabla.
Right.
Zabla, I think we've spoken before. Zabla is Zebara lo echad. It's an abbreviation. No. That's if I want to take you. Let's say I want to take Chas v'Shalom. I want to take Avi to Beis Din, but I'm not comfortable with this Beis Din, and you're not comfortable with that Beis Din. So what do we do?
But I can choose the Beis Din.
No. You choose one Dayan. I choose one Dayan. Zebara lo echad. It's a mission in Sanhedrin. And then
to choose which Beis Din.
No. Zabla is where we cannot agree on the same Beis Din. So you think, for whatever reason, in your mind, that this Beis Din won't give you a fair hearing. Whatever reason, I don't know. You come from a different part of the country, different part of the world, whatever it is, right? Whatever. So
You're out. I'm out.
We do understand.
So you choose one Dayan, and I can choose one Dayan, and then they choose one Dayan between them. And that's how you get your 3 Dayanim. And that happens now. That happens today.
But then
that's a common thing worldwide.
Could be on different bases.
Correct. And they form a new Beis Din.
Wow.
And that happens. Sometimes the Dayanim of the London Beis Din, or the Federation, or the Spanish may find themselves, or for San Fidel Union, may find themselves serving in an ad hoc Beis Din of 3 Dayanim. It's fascinating, yeah? That's how it is.
Choose the third.
They too choose the third. They choose the third. They together choose the third. What?
That's how it works.
Yeah. That's how it is. Yeah. It says it was Zablo. Zebara lo echad. This one chooses one, this one chooses one. Okay. So
I don't really understand the whole principle.
why?
Because if Levi comes along and says to Shimon, this is my house, this is my cow, whatever,
Yeah.
then Shimon has very little option to prove that it's his, other than.
Say that again. If Levi was it?
So the scenario is that Levi's come along to Shimon
Yes,
and he said, that cow you bought from Reuven, it's my cow.
correct,
Reuven had no right to sell it.
correct.
Shimon says, hang on, I bought it from Reuven.
Yes.
Prove it. How can he prove it without Reuven being involved? You see what I'm saying? How can
I have a star, so it's one object.
How can he prove that he bought it from Reuven? Well, he can prove that because he might have a star or something. But you see, Levi's but Levi's whole. No, that's okay. That's okay. Yes, that's fine. But Levi's claim is that his claim to ownership predates Reuven's. Levi doesn't dispute that Shimon bought it from Reuven. It's important to understand that.
Didn't say.
Well, I mean, hopefully it's relatively
The secret can be in.
obvious, but because the facts, logically, the facts are not going to be a dispute over whether or not he bought it.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a claim that predates Reuven's ownership. That's the obvious case. Obvious case. Yeah.
Reuven can't testify. But so hang on. But you're saying that Reuven would not be able to testify that he bought it from Levi? Before he's on to Shimon.
Well, you have to bring proof.
Right, but I'm saying Reuven has to be involved in this.
Not necessarily. Two other Adim can be involved. Two other Adim. That we're saying Reuven is conflicted. And the reason why Reuven is conflicted is because if he succeeds in proving that Levi is a liar, then Shimon is home and dry. And if not, Shimon is going to come back knocking on Reuven's door. Can I have my money back? Therefore, Reuven is obviously conflicted. So what do you have to do? You have to bring two other witnesses, a Yisach and Zvulun, and they've got to come along. That's what Shimon will have to do. He can't rely on Reuven. Of course, Reuven is relevant to this. But the point is, Reuven cannot serve as an aid on a case where he stands to materially gain from his own aiders.
But by land, that makes a lot of sense because they're going to be aiding and star. But if it's Matalton,
What's the difference?
then Matalton, that's like to have a degree of formality.
Maybe, but there'll still be Adim. Potentially still be Adim. Cow's worth a lot of money.
That's probably good for the Hammerman, by the way.
The difference between them. Well, maybe we'll have to see how the Gemora deals with it. But we'll have to see how the Gemora deals with it. No, obviously there is going to be a difference here between Karka and Matalton, right? But then we have to see how the Gemora develops it because the reason the Gemora is given, that's the key thing. The price is given. It makes no difference between land or movable items, right? Achrayas, because you can go back and claim. Well, that's the same with both. You understand? That's the Gemara's fundamental issue. So Gemara gives now, Amar Rav Sheshes says like this, the scenario is as follows. Reisha, the first case of the Brisa is, Reuven shegozal sodem mishimon. Reuven stole a field from Shimon. Not good. He did. Umochro Levi, and then he sold it to Levi. Okay. V'osa Yehuda v'koma Aaron, and Yehuda came along and claims that really he owns the field. Okay. So this is quite complicated now because you've got four people, right? We know the following facts. We know that Reuven is a thief, and we know that he stole the field from Shimon. Okay. We also know that he took Levi's money and sold it to Levi. There's a fourth person who suddenly comes in the picture and says, hey, that field that you stole from Shimon, it's really mine. Maybe Shimon stole it from me. I don't know what. Right? Yeah, it's really mine. Really mine.
It's a different person altogether then.
Yeah.
What does our
So irur means basically to stir up and to challenge whatever. No, not really to uproot. Well, no. We had it before. We said ira chad. Well, to murmur.
Object.
Yeah, Richie says object. Yeah, exactly. That's this is what it is, right? This is what it is. Yeah, you see the word oirin is also means to wake up. It means to wake up. Ani yeshena v'libi er is a pasuk in Shir Hashirim, I think. I am asleep, but my heart is awake. So the word comes from awake. Uri, exactly. Uri, yeah, exactly. Yeah. What was this? Uri. That's the same word. You understand? It means to wake up because you're stirring up. You're like you're causing a problem. if that makes sense. You're stirring something up. Yeah. So this is no, that's with an aleph.
Oh.
Yeah. Or it could be not. I'm not saying there's no connection, but that's not the simple. Yeah. Well, attention. Now the halacha is to lo lezel shim. Also, you become Arab. To lo lezel Shimon la'asid Levi. So the din is that Shimon is not allowed to go and testify for Levi. That means to say, he can't. Shimon is what is Shimon? Shimon is the nigzal. Reuven stole it from Shimon. Yehuda claims that it's his. Okay, and he said, and he says it's mine. And Yehuda brings witnesses or anything else, or whatever, etc., etc. Shimon is not allowed to come with someone else and testify that this field does not belong to Yehuda. And you might think he could do so. You might think he might be able to do so, right? Why is it that he can't do this? Why is it that he can't do so? Because he's happy that it will go back to him. Okay, in other words, he is happy that the field will go back to him. Will go back to him. To who? He will go back. I think he's happy that it goes back to Levi. Pardon? Why does he want the field to stay with Levi?
Because he's flogged it. He's a fence. He's stolen it.
No, he's not. It was stolen from him.
He lost it.
Yeah.
Of course,
Reuven stole it from Shimon and sold it to Levi. Yeah. Reuven is the seller. Reuven stole it from Shimon and sold it to Levi. Shimon is not allowed to go and break up and destroy Yehuda's claim. Why? Because it's in Shimon's interest that the field stays with Levi. Why is it in Shimon's interest the field stays with Levi? Because if the field is with Levi, later on he can bring his own claim that I was stolen from me. Reuven stole it from me. Okay? But once Yehuda has got it, once Yehuda's got it, okay, then he's going to have a problem. Why? Because it could be that the case is that Yehuda is a much more powerful individual than Levi. He's much more comfortable leaving the field with Levi to bring his claim against Levi than he is bringing a claim against Yehuda. Why? And that's what makes him Nogea Be'edus. That's what makes him to stand to gain from this testimony.
Why?
Because it can be, because that's what the situation can be. It's not definite. Again, let's put it like this: to establish a reason why I'm not allowed to testify in this case, all we have to do is prove a reasonable possibility of material gain for me. That's all. And for Shimon, the reasonable possibility of material gain is the fact that I am very happy it's staying with you because you are someone weak. And if Yehuda gets it, he is someone powerful, and I won't be able to defeat him. I'll be scared. Yes, of course I can bring witnesses in court, but what if he's standing outside with a machete afterwards? He could kill me. He's a seriously powerful guy. He's got a hitman outside. Why? It's not first one. Police, it could happen. Okay, so that's how it is. Okay.
I thought isn't it because the Yehuda is one step away from because Shimon ultimately is going to claim that Reuven stole the field.
Correct. But he'll do that later.
He'll do that later.
Yeah.
But he needs it to stay with Levi because Levi bought it from Reuven.
So
who stole the field from him. Yehuda is another step away.
Oh, I see. It's a step away.
Yeah, it's got. I don't think it's about whether Yehuda is more powerful. It's just that as long as it stays between Reuven and Levi and Shimon, Shimon's got a much better chance of getting that field back.
So I think the Gemora sort of asked your question later on in the next Omid. The Gemara is going to ask, why do you have to create such a complicated case? You could achieve the same thing with just three people. Yeah. Reuven, Shimon, and Yehuda. So Reuven steals it from Shimon.
Tells it to be.
No, it doesn't. Reuven steals it from Shimon. Yehuda comes along. Reuven steals it from Shimon. Yehuda comes along and claims it's his. Shimon, the Nigzal, can't testify on Reuven's behalf because he doesn't want it to go to Yehuda, so that he can then go and bring his claim against Reuven. You understand? We could cut out the fourth guy. Why'd you have to do a sale to Levi? Reuven could steal the field from Shimon. Yehuda comes along and says to Reuven, this property is mine. Shimon can't testify to keep it with the Gazlan. Why? Because he wants it to be with the Gazlan so he can get it back. So I think the Gemara is going to talk about that later, your potential son. Let's just see a few more lines of the Gemara to understand fully the case. Yeah. So the Lezer Shemel Asid Levi, the Nichale Dahadra, the Kivan the Asid Levi. The Gemara asks, since he testifies, there's a basic question with this. If Shimon is testifying in our case that it belongs to Levi, the Kivan the Asid Levi, since he's testified that it belongs to Levi, Hechi Motzi Mapik Lomine. How can he take it away from him? The Gemara's Havamina is that Shimon brings Edus that it belongs to Levi. Well, if he brings Edus that it belongs to Levi and not Yehuda, then he can't then come along later and claim it's his. If he's agreeing to the sale. He's agreeing that Reuven sold this field legitimately to Levi, and I'm going to prove it that it's Levi's by right. But how can then Shimon come along afterwards?
In the sense that he's agrees that Reuven sold the field. That he's not agreeing that he's ever moving.
So that's really the Gemara. Well, the Gemara gives even a better answer. Omar, he says, the case is, Shimon says, Yodano de Hai Ara de Lavdi Yehudahi. He testifies, I know that this land was not Yehuda's land. That's all he does. He just brings Edom. He testifies together with someone else that this land does not belong to Yehuda. That's all he does. Right? So the Gemara asks, okay, fine. So what has he done? Shimon has brought Edom, and he's one of the Edom, right? That Yehuda's claim is spurious. How's he done that? Whatever, like I said before, they got up and claimed and explained how Yehuda's proof is really a forged document or something like that, and therefore Yehuda's out the picture, right? So the Gemara says, why is there a material gain for Shimon? There's no material gain for Shimon. What is the material gain for Shimon here? Reuven stole the field from Shimon and sold it to Levi. Yehuda came along and says, this field is mine. Shimon disproves Yehuda's claim. Okay? And we say, you're not allowed to do that. Why? Because you materially benefit. What do you materially benefit? If the same price I can get it from Levi, I can get it from Yehuda. So what's the difference? Like, I could bring whatever claim I'm going to bring that I was stolen from me, I can bring that against Levi or Yehuda. And on that, the Gemara answers what I said before. So Omar, he says, because the other guy I don't like. He's much more harder to get out from. Yehuda is much harder to defeat in court or outside court or whatever it is, right? He's a much tougher guy, but I'm much happier with the weaker guy. What was that? The other things there?
I prefer one.
Correct. Correct. And in fact, this is a phrase often used in the Gemara. It's based in the Gemara in Ksubas. Here, the Rashbam points out, really the phraseology should be the other way around. Here it should be Horisha Nachli. The first one is better for me. The second one, Yehuda, he's harder. The Gemara uses the phrase the reverse simply because it takes it, the boilerplate phrase from Ksubas, where it was that way around in Ksubas. But this is a very interesting argument. Yeah? What we're saying is as follows. In the scenario where Reuven steals a field from Shimon and sells it to Levi, and Yehuda comes along and brings claims that it is his, Shimon is not allowed to testify that Yehuda's claim is spurious. Why? Because the net result is that the field will stay with Levi. And that's a material benefit, potentially, to Shimon. What is the material benefit? Because he's very happy with Levi. He knows Levi. He knows Levi's weak points. He knows that Levi's not such a tough guy. And he's going to be able to get up in court, and he's going to be able to defeat him, and he's going to get it back, and he's going to say he's the Nigzal, he's going to claim to be the Nigzal, and basically going to believe him, whatever his cheshbonos are. But Yehuda, I don't know about him, he's a tough guy, lives down the road. I don't want to challenge him in court. So I'm very happy to keep it with Levi. People do this all the time. Some people are known as Rottweilers in the business world, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? Like it's a known thing.
That's fine. It's just.
Yeah, it's a known thing. It's a known thing. It's a known thing, right? In certain areas of law, for example, there's a known solicitor. I'm sure, Paul, you've encountered these type of people where well, avoid them. You don't want to face them. And you have a client, and a client says, and you can warn the client and say, look, I can defend you, but I want you to know if the other guy's got this other solicitor, it's going to be a long haul. Well, you might not say that, but does that make sense? What? Herbert Smith. Oh, are they? I was going to say maybe Paul, you're like that. So maybe you're the Rottweiler in the pack. What?
I don't do this.
But it's true, right? There's such a concept of someone being tough to. Yeah, aggressive. Okay. Anyway, so that's what we've answered. We said this is the scenario, and that's the case of the Brisa. There's a lot of Rashbam on it, but we will Hashem leave that till next time. So we'll resume next week. Okay. Have a very good evening. See you, Richie.
Thank you.
Okay.